Welcome to today's explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this, because today we're talking about building a high-performance AI rig. But not just any rig, one that actually belongs in your home or office, One that doesn't sound like a jet engine warming up in some freezing server room. We're going to look at the absolute best quiet CPU coolers out there for AI workstations, pulling directly from recent hardware testing and expert setups.
So, here's our game plan for today. We're going to cover gaming versus AI workloads, then our first major lever, which is undervolting, the sustained load shift, our top quiet cooler picks, how to choose the right one for your specific rig, and finally, the order of operations.
All right, Section 1, Gaming versus AI workloads. Let's start with a really foundational concept, one that honestly changes everything about how you approach your build. You see, a CPU cooler that reviewers call good enough for gaming, yeah, it's likely going to totally fail you in a dedicated AI workstation. Think about it like a sprint versus a marathon. In a gaming PC, the load is bursty. It spikes when you're loading a new level or compiling shaders, and then boom, it settles back down. You just have to survive the peak. But with AI workloads, things like prompt processing, data loading, or CPU offloaded inference, your machine is grinding away under a continuous, heavy load for literally hours on end.
Actually, the source material puts it perfectly. Inference and training are sustained loads, not bursty ones. And this brilliantly illustrates why a highly rated cooler that easily handles a 5-minute gaming spike can quietly run entirely out of thermal headroom by hour 3 of a long AI training job. The heat just soaks in, the fans spin up to a massive roar, and eventually, your system just throttles.
Moving on to Section 2, Lever 1, Undervolt first.
So, how do we actually fix this? Well, before we even start talking about buying a massive cooler, we need to talk about your very first line of defense. Buying a cooler is actually the second lever you pull. The first lever, undervolt and power cap your GPU. You absolutely have to do this first because, well, it's completely free and it massively reduces the total ambient heat inside your case. A CPU cooler is really just how you handle the heat that's left over, right? If you reduce the heat at the source, your CPU cooler doesn't have to work nearly as hard.
Okay, Section 3, the sustained load shift. Once you've optimized that power draw, we can shift your focus to the literal physics of moving heat during continuous operation. In an AI rig, success isn't just about peak numbers. It's defined as holding a steady temperature under continuous load without the fans ramping up to a crazy roar. For this sustained load, thermal capacity at a quiet fan speed matters way more than absolute peak headroom. And this is exactly where sheer physical mass earns its keep. Big dual tower heat sinks, massive 140mm fans, they're ideal because they give you tons of surface area. Basically, bigger, slower fans move the exact same amount of heat as smaller, faster fans, but with a fraction of the noise.
And this brings us to the great debate, air versus liquid. Top-tier air coolers offer incredible reliability over years of 24/7 operation. I mean, zero maintenance, no liquid to evaporate, and critically, no pump to fail. It's completely set and forget. On the flip side, AIO or all-in-one liquid coolers provide maximum thermal headroom. They're going to hold steadier temperatures for the absolute hottest chips on the market. But you are introducing moving parts into a rig that you might be leaving running around the clock. It's a trade-off you definitely have to make intentionally.
Section 4, Top Quiet Cooler Picks. Let's get to the hardware for 2026.
With that foundational knowledge locked in, let's look at the actual solutions. We've broken our top picks down by type, noise level, and use case to give you a clear lay of the land. Whether you're looking for absolute value, pure dead silence, or raw sustained performance for a flagship chip, there is a highly specific tool for the job. Take a second to look these over. All right, let's break them down one by one.
First up is the absolute benchmark for air cooling, the Noctua NHD15G2. Honestly, this is the undisputed champion for maximum cooling with minimum noise and zero maintenance. It genuinely delivers liquid cooling class performance, hovering right around a whisper-quiet 23 to 24 decibels. Now, it's expensive, and it has a massive physical footprint. But if you want the best reliability for an always-on rig, and you don't mind the price of the size, this is absolutely the one to get.
Let's move to our next pick and see how this builds out your options, especially if you're on a tighter budget. The Thermalright Peerless Assassin 120 SE is, well, it's almost unfairly good. For roughly $35 to $45, it delivers 90 to 95% of the performance of flagship coolers that cost literally 3 times as much. It usually runs only maybe 8 to 10 degrees warmer than that massive Noctua. For a value-conscious build, this is the smart money pick for sure. Grab this and put the money you saved directly into more VRAM for your GPUs.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the be quiet, Darkrock Pro 5. This premium cooler manages to rival AIO liquid performance while remaining genuinely near inaudible under sustained loads. If your AIO rig is sitting right next to you on your desk and it's sharing your office space all day long, that premium, near-silent operation, plus that beautifully understated black finish, is absolutely worth paying for.
But wait, what if you're running a notoriously hot Ryzen 9 or Core i9 chip flat out? Or what if your case is just totally crammed with multi-GPUs and a giant air tower simply won't physically fit? That's where the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 Pro 360 comes into play. When it comes to AIOs, this is the one to beat. It handles long, heavy, all-core workloads brilliantly, and it even features this uniquely helpful integrated VRM fan to cool the motherboard's voltage regulators. And trust me, those regulators get incredibly hot during a sustained 24-hour inference run.
Finally, for the absolute purists out there, we have the Noctua NHP1. This is a completely fanless cooler. That means 0 moving parts, 0 pump whine, 0 decibels. Now, to be totally clear, you absolutely should not put this on a maxed-out, power-hungry flagship CPU. It's a very specialist pick. But if you prioritize absolute zero noise and you pair this with a heavily power-capped CPU and a case with excellent natural airflow, you get a machine that you literally cannot hear.
All right, Section 5, how to choose. So we have our top hardware picks, but a list of hardware isn't enough, right? You need to ask yourself right now, how hot does your specific CPU actually run? Will you be maximizing it for long stretches? And just as importantly, what is your personal noise tolerance? Like, do you sleep in the same room as this machine, or is it tucked away in a closet down the hall?
Here is your practical decision framework. First, match the cooler to your CPU's heat output and your noise tolerance. Second, and I really cannot stress this enough, check the physical fit. Seriously, measure for RAM clearance and case width. A world-class CPU cooler that's just slowly choking on hot air because it's jammed against a glass side panel in a bad case entirely defeats the purpose. Third, think about your time horizon. Do you want that set-and-forget air reliability for years, or do you really need maximum AIO thermal headroom? And lastly, remember that your CPU cooler is only as good as the case fans feeding it fresh air.
And our final section, number 6, the order of operations.
Let's bring this entire explainer together. So the crucial point is this strict 3-step order of operations. Step 1, undervolt your components first to reduce the heat right at the source. Step 2, cool what's left by picking the right cooler from our list. And Step 3, fix your case airflow so that the heat can actually escape the system. Whatever you do, do not skip straight to Step 2 and rely entirely on a massive cooler to try and solve a poorly optimized system.
I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought to ponder as you plan your build. Would you trade maximum peak benchmark performance for an AI workstation that you literally cannot hear? Because for a machine running inference 24/7 in your office, chasing those extreme benchmark numbers often sacrifices your daily comfort. Sometimes a silent, efficient, always-on machine is the true ultimate upgrade. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy building.